Hi, I'm Bybreen Samuels and welcome back to another episode of Soul Stirring Astrology, where I give you my textured take on the world of astrology. On April the 7th, there's a new moon in Aries. So there's the sun and the moon are forming a conjunction, and they're also forming a conjunction with Uranus in Aries, and Venus enters Aries, which is at 2 degrees. So it's a very dynamic and very, very powerful new moon. And the reason for this is because the sun is exalted in Aries. So it's a very decisive, it's a very independent, it's a very initiating type of energy that is surrounding you as we move into this new moon energy. Now, the new moon is actually being tempered by the fact that there are 5 planets that are in retrograde motion throughout April. So 2 are already retrograding, that's Jupiter and Saturn together with the North Node, and then later in the month they will be joined by Pluto, Mars and Mercury. So where you've got this retrograde energy, whereas before you would be focusing that on an external level, the retrograde energy means that all of that energy is now moving back into your own world. So it's a period for quiet introspection. It's for you to begin reflecting on various areas within your life, and I'll touch on some of those as we move through this episode. So this new moon that's taking place in Aries, a very assertive new moon, is now forming a square to Pluto. So we've got this stellium, which means 3 or more planets which are in a particular house. So we've got the moon, and we have the sun and Uranus and Venus all in the first house of Aries. And the conjunctions that are forming with the sun, the moon and Uranus are squaring Pluto in the 10th house of Capricorn. Now, there's a suggestion here that you're going to experience maybe some level of tension, and the reason for this is because Pluto in the 10th house in Capricorn is very much a signifier of your powerful position that you hold in the external world, and that could be through your career or your profession or your public standing in some way. So it's where you actually hold an anchor power, and the reason for that is because Pluto is in Capricorn, and that's ruled by Saturn. So Saturn's about limitations and responsibility and the hard taskmaster. So you may find that you're in a position of power in your world of work, but there's some level of dissatisfaction that you're beginning to feel. And the reason for this is because in the first house, which is the house of self and self-identity, you've got this powerful stellium taking place. And so the conflict there is this strong desire to break free, break away because of the stellium in Aries, together with this power play that's going on in the 10th house. Now, you could be experiencing power struggles within your world of work, but actually could be more about, are you so committed and wedded to this sense of power? And the reason why I'm suggesting this is because from an evolutionary astrology point of view, Pluto shows where you're coming from, your past. It's your habits, it's your security blanket, it's your soul's journey in past lives, which could be about a power play because we're dealing with Pluto. But in this current life, we've got Uranus showing up here, and Uranus in Aries says, well, actually, you have outgrown some of the ways of being or thinking or philosophies or life patterns that are no longer serving you. And this is where you're having this clash between your first house identity and your 10th house public identity. Also, alongside this Pluto in Capricorn in the 10th house, which is anchoring you potentially to your past, we also have alongside it, we've got Chiron, and it's conjuncting the South Node in Pisces, which is a very sensitive area. And the conjunction between Chiron and the South Node are forming a sextile with Pluto in the 10th house. So let me just break that down for you. So where we have Chiron, and Chiron is conjuncting the South Node, that is another indicator where you are committing to or recommitting to living out past identities that are associated with Chiron because it's to do with the South Node. So you could be the victim, the saviour, the wounded healer, the teacher, the saviour, the shaman, the wise one. You're continuing to live out these types of roles because it gives you a sense of security, because the South Node is your past, just like Pluto is your past. But this is where you're comfortable. And the question here is this way of being really serving you? Maybe not, because we've got this stellium that is challenging the status quo, that wants you to break free from the past. And Chiron and the South Node are forming a sextile to Pluto in the 10th house. So here it could be about validating your sense of power. It's a position that you're really comfortable with, you like it, because you could be satisfying other people's expectations. You found yourself in this role, or you're having to live in a very responsible way, but it's killing your personal identity. Now, just moving towards the retrograde planets that are now happening, we've got Jupiter and we have Saturn. So retrogrades, as I say, slows down the energy and makes you think and reflect on where you are and what's actually occurring within your world. So if we take Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Virgo and it's retrograding, so you may have this sense of superiority or very high ideals, but by maintaining these high ideals, you're unable to break free from them because you feel as if you have to maintain this sense of superiority that you're showing yourself in the public world, whereby you want people to look up to you, or you're holding yourself to very high expectations that not only you cannot live up to, but other people around you cannot live up to. So in order to access this new identity that's been shown up by this new moon energy that's taking place in Aries, the introspection is calling on you to reflect and review about the expectations that you are holding and asking you to question whether they really are liberating you in your life. The other retrograde here is we've got Saturn in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, but this is the era of philosophy and natural laws and personal beliefs and regulations. It's about the higher realm in which we all live. But with Saturn there, it's about actually you have a certain set of belief systems, and with the retrograde motion, it's time for you to question these belief systems. Are they serving you? And if they're not serving you, you begin to recognize how limiting you are living your life. And so the retrograde helps you to reconcile, well, you have a set of old belief systems. We've got this Uranus in Aries that's questioning these belief systems and inviting you to think about, is it time for you to break free from all of that? Also, we've got the North Node. Although it's retrograding, the North Node points to your new direction. So if you're able to reconcile what's going on with these retrograde planets and then link those to what that means to your sense of Chiron conjuncting the South Node, and we've got Pluto there holding you back in a past ways of living, if you're able to reconcile that, then you can move into this new identity that's calling you in this first house. And alongside the stellium in the first house, we've got Venus, and Venus is conjuncting the ascendant. And the ascendant is your window to the world. It's the way that you think the world sees you and accepts you, and it's the way that you want the world to see you and accept you. Now with Venus here, Venus is about grace and Venus is about harmony. It's also about, it might be a time where you're changing your personal identity. It could be a physical makeover. You might have your hair cut, or have some type of cosmetic surgery. Whatever it is, something that makes you feel more glamorous or beautiful, or just heightens your sense of yourself. Also with Venus here, it could be that you're changing your style of socialization and connecting with people in a far more open and direct way. Furthermore, because we've got Venus here, it could be a time where you're bringing to the surface your latent creative abilities, and it's time to share them with the world. Now, you can only really connect with what this invitation is coming from, this new moon, if you go through what the retrograde planets are whispering to you. At the same time, what Uranus is demanding that you hear, it's time to let go and relinquish these old patterns and behaviours that are holding you back. We've got one other aspect, and that is Mars. Mars is also within Sagittarius in the first house. So it's a very packed first house, which is about personal identity. It's a philosophical house because it's... Mars is trining, not in the same house, it's trining this new moon identity because Mars is in Sagittarius. And so Mars is forming a square, and it's squaring with Neptune. So we've got this assertive energy coming from Mars, and it wants to assert itself in a very philosophical way. So therefore it's thought through the beliefs that you hold and then wants to move forward and take action. But actually Mars is being compromised here, and the reason for this is because it's squaring Neptune, and Neptune is where disillusionment might be slipping into your everyday reality. You might be feeling some level of dissatisfaction. So if you're feeling this level of dissatisfaction, the retrograde energies will help you think through what that actually means. But also this signature of Mars and Neptune is an indication for you to now go back and clear up and clean up and finish off unresolved situations, reconcile them, complete them so that you're able to move forward confidently, assertively, because Mars rules Aries, where this stellium is taking place. So that's it for this week. A very, very dynamic and assertive new moon, particularly because we've got the sun and it's exalted in Aries. It's shining brightly. But you need to be looking at this past energy, the South Node, Pluto, what that means, taking moments of introspection to reconcile these different positions, and then you can boldly step forward in the way that the stellium and this new identity is calling you to do so. So the quote from this week is from Paramahansa Yogananda, and what he said is this, is that the seeds of past karma cannot germinate if they are roasted in the divine fires of wisdom. So this retrograde energy that's currently taking place, because we've got Jupiter, Saturn and the North Node, which will then be joined by 3 other planets, that's Pluto, Mercury and Mars, going through this month of April. It's a very powerful time for you to be thinking of these past seeds of karma. Are you continuing to reseed them? Or is it a case that you've actually learned something? So where's the wisdom that you've gleaned from your past experiences that you're able to rise above and look at yourself from an objective point of view to think, well, that has served me well. I've learned some fantastic lessons, and the wisdom that you're now bringing forth into your current life because this new identity demands that you do so. So have a fantastic week as you reflect and think and pontificate and explore the past wisdom. Where are the seeds of wisdom in your life and how can you apply them to this new identity? So that's it. If you like this episode, share it with other people in your network. Thank you very much for watching and supporting me on my journey as I continue to bring you the wisdom of astrology. You can like and subscribe, and I will see you again on the next episode.